I'm delighted to be here talking to you as your keynote speaker here this afternoon. My name is Shane. I run our UK and Ireland business here based in Dublin. So I'm going to talk to you about what is being titled a very grandiose title, The State of Digital in EMEA. But what I'm going to do is really just share with you a couple of things. I'm going to share with you, from a Google perspective, what are we seeing that's going on in digital in EMEA? What are the trends that are going on? What are the key trends that we're taking notice of? And as a combined advertiser, marketer, audience, what are the ones that are really, really important? And I'm not going to focus on 20 trends or 10 trends. I'm focused on 2. Okay? I'm going to talk about the speed of behavioral change around human behavior, how that's changing, and how that in turn is changing the rules of the game for marketing, where intent is now becoming king. That's all I'm going to talk about. 2 things. So there's no doubt that at the moment, we are all in the midst of profound change driven by technology. Right? And that's affecting businesses, society, culture, consumers, everything. Just think about how your lives have changed in the last 2 to 5 years, even 10 years, even 15 years, or 17 years since Google came about. Let's just think about this man. This is Anthony Ray Hilton. I'm not sure many people would recognize him. I didn't recognize him until I saw this clip last week. Anthony Ray Hilton was imprisoned in 1985 for a double murder, incorrectly imprisoned. He was pardoned just last month and released from maximum security prison, where he served 30 years in solitary confinement on death row. Just 1985, can you just consider that? 30 years. Anthony missed all of this. Only started 10 years after he went into prison. 16 years before he went to prison, man walked on the moon for the first time. And last month, when he left prison, he was handed a smartphone, a device that could fit in his pocket, and a device that had infinitely more processing power than the computer that sent man to the moon. No wonder the guy was absolutely mystified. And he had to be told that this same smartphone that could fit in his pocket was not just a wireless phone, it was also a camera, a clock, an alarm clock, a fitness tracker, a device to watch videos, a device to watch gaming, a device that gave access to the world's information. So it's clear when we think about this that technology has fundamentally changed society in a very, very short space of time. So let's explore that a little bit more. Because in that same time, I remember when I studied university studied marketing in the university in the 1990s, the principles of marketing actually haven't changed. The concept of a funnel is still as relevant today as it was when I was in university as it was maybe 50, 60 years ago. The concept is very, very simple. To grow a business, we need to attract customers into our funnel. We need to drive them right down and secure the purchase. And when we do that, we need to make sure, hopefully, it's a happy experience. So they tell loads of people, and hopefully they come back and buy more stuff off us. And to grow our business, we hopefully attract new customers all the time to grow market share. So we're constantly talking about how we have to secure sales today and secure and build sales for tomorrow. And across EMEA, we might have different terminologies that we all use as a collective, but largely there's 4 things we do as marketers and advertisers. We have to create awareness, we have to drive consideration, we have to secure the purchase, and encourage advocacy. And do all of that with great emotive storytelling. It all sounds simple, right? But we all know it's not simple, because things have changed and changed fundamentally. So what are the main changes we're seeing? Well, what we're seeing is that the world has been shrunk by the internet. We're now living in what can be described as a global village. This is an example of what happened in Ireland about 3 weeks ago. We had a marriage equality referendum that thankfully passed unanimously. But the attention this got around the world was quite extraordinary. There were 11.1 million followers of the Yes campaign on Twitter. There are only 3 million eligible voters in Ireland and only 2 million who actually voted yes, which was thankfully a 66% majority. So 11 million people. And it wasn't just Joe Bloggs who was getting involved in this. As you can see, there was very, very high profile and popular people around the world getting actively involved in this conversation. And if you see the map in the background, those green dots are the intensity of searches on google.com for marriage referendum. So you can see that a referendum that happened in a small country like Ireland just got instant global appeal. So technology has absolutely shrunk the world into a small global village. And the way we're accessing and looking for information has fundamentally changed as well. I always like to tell a story when I'm explaining this point. So just before I continue, was there anybody here listening to me speak at our Agency Accelerate event last December in this room? One person. Two. Guys, sorry, you're going to have to indulge me. I'm going to tell the same story I told 6 months ago, but I got good feedback, so I'm going for it again, okay? So how we access information. So just before I spoke at that event 6 months ago, my 7-year-old daughter came up to me and said, Dad, can you help me draw a picture of a horse? Which, I said, that's cool, that's no problem with that. Well, the only problem is I'm not very, very good at drawing, right? I never have been. I don't think I ever will be, but I'll keep on trying. So anyway, I got my pen and paper out and we sat to work. And after 5 minutes, I regret to inform you, this is not the drawing of a 7-year-old. I told you I was rubbish at drawing, right? So I turned around to show off my creation to my daughter, and she was nowhere to be seen. She was gone. So what obviously had happened, she'd seen me creating this masterpiece, realized it wasn't any good, and went off to teach herself. I found her in the next room 5 minutes later, and this is what she produced. A 7, pretty good, right? I said, what actually went on here? So actually, what actually happened was, she saw me creating a complete mess. She went and picked up my phone, or her phone as she calls it. She tapped voice search and says, show me how to draw a picture of a horse. So she got 2 YouTube tutorials came up in family safe mode. She collected one, and 5 minutes later, bang. And what I thought there was, I was reflecting on that. I said, right, after my initial response to this big challenge I got was to grab a piece of pen and a paper, and I work for Google, and this is what I did. Yet my 7-year-old daughter picked up the nearest device, asked the device a question, got an answer, instant gratification, bang. And I thought, wow, human behavior has really fundamentally changed. So how we're accessing information is fundamentally changing, but technology is changing lots of ways in which we live our lives and how we experience lives as well. So this is a picture which really caught my attention. This is from Hungary in October, where the government tried to introduce a tax on the internet. And what I find particularly fascinating with this picture is that not only are people taking pictures with their phones and sharing it globally, but they're also using their phones as a symbol of the fact that you cannot tax something that is intrinsically part of our lives. This is part of us. It's the internet in our pockets. And I thought it was a really powerful way in which we're now living out our social life through technology, is influencing the way we're actually influencing governments and agendas, etc. And technology is not just impacting society, it's also having an impact on business, as we know. And it's impacting how we consume and our path to purchase, etc. So I guess it wouldn't surprise you in EMEA, in this region, over the past 3 years, footfall to high street stores is down around about 50%, depending on the country, but generally around 50%. And that may not surprise you because people are buying more online, et cetera, and you can see that in our own behavior. But what may be surprising is in the same period, basket sizes in high street stores is up 200% in the same period. So this move away from shopping online is not having an impact. It's not at the adverse impact to bricks and mortar retailer. And it's interesting, about 3 months ago, I met a CEO of a car dealership here in Ireland, and he was telling me that over the last 5 years, the average number of visits for a consumer when buying a new car, the average number of visits to a showroom has gone from 7 to 1.5. Yet his sales are up 40% in the last 5 years. Now, I will caveat that sales are up 40%, a lot to do with better economic conditions than 5 years ago, but still makes the point. 7 visits to buy a 30,000 euro car versus the 1.5 today. So our path to purchase has fundamentally changed. We're still making the purchases, but it's clear that when we go to stores, when we go to the showrooms, we're going there to close a deal we've already researched online. But perhaps the biggest change in all these changes I'm describing is mobile. I think this is the one that's the most profound change, and you're going to hear more and more about this as we go through today and tomorrow, is that mobile, and the change to mobile, the constant connectivity we have is fundamentally changing the way in which we communicate to each other, the way in which we live our lives. And a really, really important point for me is that if we think of mobile as a technology, if we think mobile as a platform, we're not thinking the right thing. Mobile is a behavior. And for us, it is the changing behavior in EMEA. If you think about it, an average human being interacts with their smartphone 150 times a day. 150 times a day. That's 150 moments in which a brand can talk to a consumer and engage with it. That's 100 billion aggregated moments per day in the global population. So I think when we understand mobile as being a behavior, then we can begin to understand the implications this has for marketing and the implication it has for us to connect and engage and have a dialogue with consumers at the moment that's appropriate for them. So once we start understanding mobile as a behavior and not as a technology, then we can get into understanding intent. For me, it's really fascinating to listen to what consumers have to say. It's fascinating to ask them what they think. But it's a lot more fascinating to understand what they actually do. And it's clear to me as a group, as advertisers and marketers, we've moved away from the role of engaging and appealing to a captive audience. We moved away from an attention economy to an intention economy. We've moved away from a focus of perception to a focus on actions, from a focus on telling people what they want to asking people what they want, responding to it. We've moved away from interrupting people when they're doing something that they enjoy to inviting them to partake in something that they may enjoy. It's fundamentally different. And in digital, all the guesswork is taken out. Okay? You can see what people are doing so much easier on digital. Just the same as body language is a telltale sign and give what people are feeling and what people are thinking. Online behavior and how people behave online is an absolute telltale and giveaway for how people are thinking and what their intentions are. And at Google, we're obsessed with this. We are obsessed not with what people think, not with how people feel, but what they actually do. So Facebook may be focused on what people like. Apple may be focused on what people feel. Amazon may be focused on what people buy. But at Google, we're absolutely focused on what people do. So I'm going to examine what we think is the greatest sign of intent on the internet today, which is search. And you're saying, why am I talking about search in a brand conference? It's not here to talk about search. Well, actually, search has a fundamental role to play in brand marketing. Yes, it's got a fantastic role to play down around securing the purchase and direct response tool, etc. But it has an amazing role to play up in driving awareness and creating consideration. And it's constantly evolving. Every second, 15% of searches we see in Google are searches we have never, ever seen before. They're brand new. And what we're seeing evolving in search is that it's becoming more, with the explosion of mobile, it's more about location. It's more about context. We're seeing it's becoming more conversational. The voice app, the Google Voice app, 60% of teenagers in the USA are using that every day, 40% of adults. That's coming our way into EMEA. So search has become more conversation, more like a conversation. So what we're seeing is that lots of search would have seen like functional things like search for a Dublin restaurant or for power score city centre venues, etc., are moving away. And we're seeing a lot more searches for why, 1.5 times more searches for why than we've seen before. So we saw this trend a couple of years ago where there were lots of wider questions, why is the sky blue? But now we're seeing very, very specific questions, right as if it's like a conversation. So why is the euro so weak? Why is Australia in the Eurovision? Why is Australia in the Eurovision? I actually still don't know the answer to that one. They didn't win, though, anyway. So, we're also seeing searches for how-to have grown 3 times as much in the last 3 years. So again, these are the top how-to searches around various countries. So in the UK, we're obsessed with how to make pancakes. In the States, it's how to tie a tie. Bahamas get dimples. In Singapore, it's how to grow taller. I'm still not sure how Google is going to help our Singapore friends how to grow taller, but that's what we're seeing. But it's interesting, as we're seeing more how-to searches and more why searches, if you think about it, there's a gap developing on the internet, a content gap developing on the internet, and it's all in the upper funnel. These questions are showing that people are looking for advice, they're looking for inspiration, they're looking for ideas. Okay? And it's interesting, the next chart is a chart from Nike, which is the Google Trends chart, which shows there's 4 times as many searches for marathon than there are for running shoes or Nike running. So it's no longer the product that matters, it's the purpose. It's not the running shoes, it's the marathon. This is intent. So as well as people looking for information, sometimes people just want to be entertained. And when people want to be entertained, from a Google point of view, we're seeing people coming onto YouTube. In fact, YouTube is the second largest search engine in the world after Google. So what are we seeing on YouTube? I think you'll see some more stats as we go to the next few days. 1 billion, that's half the world's internet population are on YouTube. Okay? And what we're seeing incredibly is that half of those are on mobile. That number is only going to get bigger as more and more people come online from other parts of the world. So over half of that audience is coming through coming through on a mobile device. And I guess the appeal and the great kind of traction of YouTube is the diversity of its content. So the biggest content creators in the world, the likes of Disney or Vivo for music or Machinima for games, they're all on YouTube. But also, it's the small content creators and the stars of tomorrow. And so what we're seeing is that with the amount of people interacting and viewing and coming on board onto YouTube, it is becoming the world's entertainment platform. So no matter where you are in the world, no matter what your interests are, you will find your content to suit you on YouTube. So it's fast becoming the world's gaming platform, the world's news platform, the world's comedy platform, food platform, in fact, the world's whatever you want to do to get entertained platform. So it's very much a place, or a destination, but it's also a place of intent. And I said to you, with half of those people coming through a mobile device, we're getting more and more signals every day of how people are interacting with YouTube on a mobile device, and it's quite fascinating. And recently we did an Ipsos study which showed that people who are accessing YouTube mobile video versus TV viewers are twice as likely to expect their advertising to fit with the content they're watching, and 4 times as likely to share that content. So I think that's worth repeating. Mobile viewers are twice as likely to expect advertising to fit with the content and 4 times as likely to share it than TV viewers. So the onus on us is to make sure as a community the content and the creative we're developing is capable of being shared. Also, as another implication is that when we looked at the attention economy, the kind of rule was the bigger the screen, the more outstanding the content had to be. Well, actually, it's flipped now. Okay, it's actually flipped to where the smaller the screen, the more outstanding the content needs to be. And that's not to say that a TV ad won't work on YouTube. Of course it will. But you kind of need to think about it a little bit differently, because if you look at a TV ad, the general TV ad flows would be a standard narrative arc that reaches a crescendo and closes with a big bang in the last few seconds of an ad. On the internet, the average span of attention as us as human beings on an internet site is 8 seconds, which means on a YouTube video ad, you've got to be making an impression those first 5, 6, 7 seconds, or else it won't be watched. And you'll see that with the ads leaderboard. We see the kind of videos played throughout the day. Just watch and observe how people grab your attention those first 5 seconds, and they're the ones that are getting the traction on YouTube. So ladies and gentlemen, what I shared with you in those first 15, 20 minutes was, fundamentals of marketing has not changed. It's not going to change. However, human behavior has fundamentally changed, and it's changed the rules of the game, and those changes have predominantly been driven by mobile. I talked about how important it is for us not to think about mobile as a technology or as a platform, but as a behavior. And if we really understand those behaviors, then we begin to understand intent, the intention economy, not the attention economy. And at Google, we understand behaviors, we understand intent, we're obsessed by them, but we understand them at scale, at a global scale, and we understand them with precision. We know a lot about people, what people do. We know a lot about how people interact with your brands. We know a lot about how people interact when they're not with your brands. In fact, we're gaining more and more touch points, more and more signals all the time that we're confident we can connect any brand with any audience they want. So, in conclusion, ladies and gentlemen, I believe there's never been a more exciting time to be in marketing than there is today. We're really, really excited to be working with you all, not just today, but over the coming months and years as we embark and help you with your marketing and your brand marketing campaigns. I wish you every success, and thank you for listening.
twisting vines of time. You're in their grasp. A staircase to climb, breathing in gasps. The wind only knows what happened to me. I know you're a rose trapped beneath the sea. This I know, I'll never let you down. This I know, I'll never let you down. Bruises on all the trees, echoing sound. If you're down on your knees for the final count, this I know, I'll never let you down.